China is making its mark. The Financial Times reports the communist country in August tested a hypersonic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, launching it into low-orbit space.
A missile that morphs in mid-flight, 5 times the speed of sound, and a headline screaming it could destroy America in seconds. One of those claims is a lie. Here is what is actually real. Chinese researchers have built something that, on paper, reads like science fiction. A hypersonic vehicle that can physically reshape its own body while it is flying. It folds its wings in to knife through the air, then snaps them out to dodge anything we throw at it. The story detonated across the internet in a matter of days. Unstoppable. Game over. The end of American air defense. You have probably seen the thumbnails. A glowing missile, a frightened map of the United States, a countdown clock. I am not here to sell you fear. I am here to walk you through the engineering, the physics, and the politics, and then hand the decision to you, because there is a genuine threat buried in this story. It is just not the one the headlines are pointing at. So stay with me, because the most dangerous weapon in this entire story is not the one that changes shape, and I will show you exactly what it is. The weapon comes out of China's National University of Defense Technology, the institution at the heart of nearly every major Chinese missile program. A research team led by Professor Wang Peng published the design in a peer-reviewed aerospace journal in late 2025. Every hypersonic vehicle faces one cruel trade-off. To survive Mach 5 and above, you need a sleek, dart-like body that sheds heat and drag. But that same sleek shape robs the missile of lift, which means it cannot turn sharply when it matters most, in the final dive toward the target. The morphing design tries to cheat that trade-off. Picture a skydiver. When they want to fall fast, they tuck into a rigid arrow. When they want to steer across the sky, they throw their arms and legs wide. This missile does the exact same thing, except it is doing it at 4,000 miles an hour. For most of the flight, the wings stay tucked, the body stays clean, and the vehicle preserves its speed. Then, in the last few seconds, the wings deploy, lift jumps, and the missile can throw itself into sharp, erratic moves that an interceptor cannot predict. On paper, that defeats the math at the core of modern missile defense. On paper. Now, here is the part the viral posts conveniently skipped. This missile has never flown. What the researchers actually tested was the control system, and they tested it on the ground, inside a simulation. The technical name is hardware in the loop. A computer pretends to be the sky. It calculates the brutal forces of hypersonic flight and feeds them to the real, physical wing actuators, which then respond as if they were flying. It is a clever, legitimate, important step, but it is a rehearsal, not a performance. No physical flight test of this morphing missile has been confirmed by anyone, not by independent monitors, not by Western intelligence, not even by China's own military. As of right now, it is an experimental prototype that proved its math in a lab. And the independent analysts who actually read the paper were measured, not panicked. One described it as an incremental optimization of control and endurance, not a rule-breaking revolution. His lines stuck with me. China's morphing missile is not rewriting the laws of hypersonic flight. It is wrestling with the same physics everyone else has to beat. Let us deal with the biggest claim head-on. Could this thing destroy the United States in seconds? No, and it is not close. At Mach 5, this missile covers about 1 mile every second. That sounds apocalyptic until you remember the Pacific Ocean is roughly 6,000 miles wide. Even at Mach 10, an intercontinental strike takes 20 to 30 minutes of sustained flight. There is no teleportation, there is no instant. Here is the speed in terms you can feel. Mach 5 is more than 60 miles every minute. It is nearly twice as fast as a bullet from a military rifle. It is about 7 times faster than the passenger jet you flew on last summer. And the heat that flight generates at the nose, 2,000 to 3,000 degrees Celsius, is roughly half the temperature of the surface of the sun. That is hot enough to melt titanium like candle wax. So the danger is real, but it is a different danger. It is not that the missile arrives in seconds. It is that you might not see it coming until it is almost on top of you. A weapon like this can shrink a commander's decision window from 30 minutes down to 5. That is the actual threat. Not instant death, compressed time. And this is where the story turns. Because while the internet was hypnotized by a prototype that has never left a laboratory, the real weapons rolled straight down the streets of Beijing. On September 3, 2025, China held a massive military parade, and it did not show off one experimental missile. It showed off an entire family of hypersonic weapons that already exist. The YJ-17, a hypersonic glide vehicle that rides its own shockwave. The YJ-19, a scramjet cruise missile estimated near Mach 10. The YJ-20, a ship-killing ballistic missile that comes down in a maneuvering dive. Think of a scramjet for a second. A normal jet engine uses spinning blades to compress air. A scramjet has no moving parts at all. It goes so fast that the air compresses itself. Lighting fuel inside it is the engineering equivalent of keeping a match burning in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. And on top of all of that sits the DF-17, fully operational, in the hands of China's rocket force right now. The point of the parade was not a single silver bullet, it was variety. Glide vehicles, scramjets, ballistic divers, all fielded at once, all designed to swarm a target from different directions on the same afternoon. That is not a science paper, that is a production line. And that is the math that actually keeps admirals awake. A ship can shoot down one incoming missile, maybe a handful, but fire a wave of them from the sea, from the air, from a dozen angles at once, and you do not need every missile to get through. You only need one. Volume beats genius. And volume is exactly what a production line gives you. So why pour years into a shape-shifting missile at all? Because of one target. Not a city, a ship. A modern carrier strike group defends itself in layers. Fighters far out, long-range interceptors, then short-range missiles, then guns as the last resort. Every layer assumes one thing, that it can predict where the incoming weapon is going. Defending against a normal missile is like a center fielder catching a fly ball. You watch it leave the bat, you calculate the arc, you run to the spot, you catch it. Defending against a morphing hypersonic is like trying to catch a baseball that suddenly sprouts wings and turns 90 degrees right before it lands. If it works, it does not have to sink the carrier from the headlines. It just has to make the US Navy park its carriers farther out to sea, thousands of miles from the Chinese coast, afraid to come closer. That is the real prize. A wall in the ocean built out of fear, without a single shot being fired. Which brings us to the question hiding inside that headline. Has the United States fallen hopelessly behind? The honest answer is more interesting than yes or no. On offense, China leads in deployed numbers. That part is true. But in 2024 and 2025, America quietly crossed a line of its own. The Army's Dark Eagle, its first true hypersonic weapon, moved from testing into actual fielding, with its first battery standing up in early 2026. The Navy is putting the same glide body onto submarines and destroyers. The Air Force is building a smaller scramjet missile for fighter jets. And here is the part nobody puts in a thumbnail. America decided not to win this race missile for missile. It is building a net instead. In late 2025, the Space Development Agency awarded contracts for 72 new tracking satellites in low orbit, satellites with infrared eyes built to spot and follow maneuvering hypersonics from above. Ground radar is blocked by the curve of the Earth. Satellites are not. They strip a hypersonic weapon of its single greatest advantage: surprise. On top of that sits a dedicated interceptor designed to kill these weapons during their glide, and its delivery date was just pulled forward by years. So no. America did not abandon the field. It is quietly building a system designed to make a missile like this one mathematically catchable before it ever arrives. And yes, you will hear that the Pentagon cut its hypersonic budget. It did by roughly 40% in a single year, but read past the number. Analysts call that a shift from expensive experiments into actual production and integration, not a surrender. America is buying fewer science projects and more finished weapons. That is not falling behind. That is growing up. There is one more reason to keep your skepticism switched on. The same trick that makes this missile special is also its deepest weakness. A normal hypersonic missile is forged as one solid piece, specifically so it has no weak points. But a morphing missile needs moving parts, hinges, actuators, folding skin, and every one of those parts leaves a seam. At Mach 5, the air around the vehicle ignites into a sheath of plasma, 2,000 to 3,000 degrees. If that superheated plasma finds even a millimeter-wide gap, it acts like a blowtorch aimed at the missile's own insides. Then there is flutter. A deployed wing that is not perfectly rigid can start to vibrate in the hypersonic airflow. And at these speeds, those vibrations can tear the wing apart in milliseconds. Folding a wing perfectly inside a wind tunnel is a triumph. Keeping that wing alive inside a Mach 5 fireball over the open ocean is an entirely different universe, and one this prototype has not yet been shown to survive. So let me come back to my promise from the start. The most dangerous weapon in this story is not the missile. It is the announcement. The lead researcher on this paper has also written about psychological and cognitive warfare, about using information itself as a weapon. Release a paper about an unstoppable shape-shifting missile right after a parade full of real ones, and you do not need the prototype to ever fly. You have already done the damage. You have made allies nervous. You have made commanders hesitate. You have made millions of people believe the war is already lost. That is the move. The fear travels faster than any missile ever could. And the only defense against that particular weapon is the thing you just did. You stopped, you looked at the physics, and you refused to panic. So here is where we land. The morphing missile is real as research, exaggerated as a threat, and unproven as a weapon. The real arsenal is already fielded. And the scariest part was never the technology. It was how easily a headline made you afraid of the wrong thing. I want your honest take. Drop one word in the comments. Comment prototype if you think this missile is mostly a message. Comment threat if you think it is the real deal. I read every one, and your answers shape what I cover next. If this cleared the fog for you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because next time I am breaking down America's answer to all of this, the satellite net being built right now to catch these weapons from space and whether it can actually work. I will see you there.